Some houses don't just hold memories, they sear them into your soul. The walls remember every scream, the floors echo every step, and the silence, it isn't empty, it's alive, waiting, hungry. Tonight, you'll hear about a case so disturbing that Ed and Lorraine Warren themselves admitted it haunted them for years. The Donovan Family Haunting. At first glance, their home in the early 1970s looked ordinary. A modest house on a quiet street. Neighbors waved, children laughed in the yard, and the Donovans felt safe. They were like any other family, hardworking, hopeful, eager to build a future in a home of their own. But behind those walls, something was watching, learning, and waiting. It didn't start with blood or broken glass. Evil is smarter than that. It started small, sounds no one could explain, heavy thuds at night, as if fists were pounding inside the walls themselves. The Donovans tried to ignore it, just the house settling, they told themselves. But the pounding grew louder, stronger, deliberate, with rhythm, like a heartbeat. And then one night, as the family sat together in the living room, the noise exploded. A picture frame ripped from the wall and shattered on the floor. The children clung to their mother. Mr. Donovan tried to stay calm, but his hands shook as he reached for the broken glass. That was the moment they realized the thing inside those walls wasn't just trying to scare them, it was trying to reach out. After that night, the Donovans could no longer pretend their home was just a home. The sound wasn't random, it was intelligent, it was aware. The pounding grew bolder. Sometimes it came from inside the walls, other times from under the floorboards, rattling dishes in the kitchen. The rhythm was deliberate, taunting them, daring them to respond. The children began to change first. They refused to sleep in their own rooms. Their youngest daughter would wake screaming, insisting there was a man in the corner, whispering her name. When Mrs. Donovan rushed in, there was nothing there, just the faint, choking stench of rotting meat that clung to the air long after the child calmed down. Mr. Donovan tried to keep his composure. He told his wife it was just stress, the kid's imagination. But at night, when he thought no one was watching, his eyes darted toward the shadows, and his knuckles whitened around the armrest of his chair. Then came the night the house answered back. Mrs. Donovan, exhausted, snapped at the pounding in frustration. "What do you want?" she screamed into the darkness. The entire house went still. For a moment, the silence was shattering, heavier than the loudest noise. And then, from inside the wall directly behind her, came 3 sharp knocks, slow, perfectly spaced, as if mocking her. The children burst into tears. Mr. Donovan pulled them close, his voice trembling as he told them it was just pipes, but his hands shook too hard for his words to mean anything. Not long after, the house added another layer of horror. Faucets began to run on their own, but the water that poured out wasn't clear. It was murky, tinged with red, reeking of iron and decay. The family stopped drinking from the tap, and yet the house wasn't finished. Late one night, when Mrs. Donovan thought she heard the baby crying, she crept upstairs. The nursery was empty, the crib still, but the sound continued, soft, distorted, echoing from the walls themselves as though they were alive. She pressed her ear against the plaster, praying it was her imagination. What she heard was not a baby. It was a voice, low, guttural, and unmistakably human. It whispered her name. She stumbled back, covering her mouth to stop the scream rising in her throat. The air reeked of sulfur. Her eyes burned as though the very walls were exhaling malevolence. By the time she rushed back downstairs, her husband didn't ask what happened. He could see it in her face. He simply put an arm around her shoulders, pulling her close, both of them trembling in the flickering light of the living room lamp. They didn't say it out loud, not yet, but they both knew the truth. Whatever lived inside that house wasn't going to stop, and the Donovans had only just begun to see what it was capable of. Days bled into nights, and the Donovan house no longer felt like home. Shadows slithered along the walls, watching, waiting. A rocking chair swayed even when the air was still. Curtains twitched without a breeze. Each night, the family awoke to faint whispers, just syllables, fragments of words, but enough to freeze blood in veins. And the smell of sulfur lingered, clinging to their skin as if marking them. The children began avoiding each other. The eldest slept on the floor beside the staircase, eyes wide, as though the hall itself was watching. Little Emily clung to her mother, refusing to let go. Mr. Donovan tried to keep the family together, but tension cracked like ice in his voice. Fear was eating them from the inside. One evening, Mrs. Donovan saw a shadow on the nursery wall, her back to the window, but the silhouette twisted unnaturally, watching her every blink. She wanted to scream, but no sound came. Only the stench of rot suffocated her. The attacks turned physical. Books toppled from shelves, drawers slammed shut with fingers caught inside. Emily's doll appeared on the top stair landing, standing, soaked in murky water, though it had been locked in her room. Whispering grew clearer, deliberate, calling out names. One night, Mr. Donovan glimpsed it, a figure at the foot of the stairs, impossibly tall, hollow eyes, watching. He froze. The children screamed. Mrs. Donovan ran, but the figure vanished. Only faint, mocking laughter lingered in the air, and a subtle, terrifying pattern emerged. Objects gravitated toward Emily. Toys, shoes, her favorite chair. Mr. Donovan noticed, but said nothing. It struck him. It's choosing a target, learning. They didn't speak. Not yet, but the truth was clear. This wasn't mischief. It was intentional, patient, hungry, learning. That night, the Donovans' world shattered. The house no longer whispered. It roared. Floorboards groaned under invisible weight. Walls expanded and contracted like lungs, alive. Shadows darted along corners, reaching. Every light flickered, plunging rooms into darkness, revealing glimpses of something. The eldest child screamed. Mr. Donovan ran. The hallway filled with thick, curling smoke, smelling of sulfur and rot. A figure emerged, tall, thin, hollow eyes glowing like coals. It moved impossibly fast, floating or leaping. Its mouth opened, silent at first. Then a guttural scream rattled their bones. Emily clung to her mother, trembling violently. Mrs. Donovan tried to shield her, but a cold, invisible hand brushed her back. Objects flew in arcs, books, lamps, a chair crashing into the wall. The nursery door burst open. The baby's crib shook violently. The crying returned, not Emily's. Deeper, malevolent, echoing everywhere. Mr. Donovan lunged for the child, but air itself resisted him. The doll crawled across the floor, soaked, turning its head toward them. Shadows twisted along walls, ceiling, staircase. Faces formed, twisted, tormented. Whispers grew into voices, mocking, accusing, naming fears. Every corner hid eyes. Every shadow threatened. Through it all, a chilling realization. The entity was not trapped. It had been feeding, growing, no longer confined to the walls. It was among them. A low, echoing laugh rolled through the room. Lights died. Silence fell, but it wasn't calm. It was the pause before hunger struck. And in that darkness, Mr. Donovan felt a cold breath on his neck and a whisper, impossible to forget. "You shouldn't have come back." By morning, the Donovan house was quiet. Too quiet. The storm of the night had passed, leaving the scent of rot and sulfur hanging like a threatening memory. The living room was a ruin, yet the sense of being watched pressed against their chests, heavy and unrelenting. Mr. Donovan sat with the children, their eyes wide, refusing to speak. Mrs. Donovan moved mechanically, gathering broken fragments, glancing at every corner. Fear had carved deep lines. Together, but apart, united only in terror. Then came the first whisper, soft, intimate, not from the walls, from shadows near the ceiling, drifting downward. "You can't leave." Yet, days passed. Meals eaten, beds slept in, chores done. But subtle signs persisted. Objects slightly moved, doors ajar, shadows lingering just a fraction too long. Emily whispered the corner of the nursery was smiling. The eldest child refused the staircase. Convinced eyes followed him. Air often colder than it should. Goosebumps crawling. Mr. and Mrs. Donovan exchanged glances more than words. Trust frayed. Sleepless nights multiplied. Every creak, every groan was heavy with meaning. The house was watching. They knew it. No one in the neighborhood noticed. No help came. The Donovans were alone. They survived, but survival had sharpened the entity's awareness. Patient, observing, waiting. And sometimes, when shadows moved just right, a faint echo of laughter drifted. A reminder that what they feared was not gone. It never would be. Because some houses don't just hold memories. They keep them alive. And some entities never forget who enters their walls. The Donovans never spoke of that night. Not fully. But every creak, whisper, shadow reminded them. They were no longer masters of their home. They were guests. And the house, hungry, patient, eternal, was always ready to claim what it wanted next. And when the house decides to act again, it won't just haunt. It will choose.